This is the Goliath in today's story, the Sony STR-DH190. This receiver has dominated the entry-level stereo world for years, but this teeny tiny Fosi Audio amplifier might actually beat it. Today, I'm going to put these two head to head, and I promise by the end of the video, you'll know which one's for you. Let's get into it. Now, if you've ever even considered building a stereo system, you've probably heard of the Sony STR-DH190. It's the very first thing that pops up when you search up budget receiver, and for good reason. This guy puts out a very respectable 100 watts per channel, allows for a lot of control over the sound, offers a lot of convenience, feels great, and in my opinion, it looks pretty great too. It retails for about $250 USD. Now, even though this thing has been king for a while, nowadays, there are some better options out there. This is our David. This small, Class D, Chinese underdog is a serious contender for the title of Budget King, and in my opinion, it should be recommended over the 190 in most cases. With the right power supply, this compact amplifier can produce 300 watts at 4 ohms and around 150 watts at 8 ohms. That makes this receiver perfect for smaller desktop setups and even suitable for larger tower speakers. Now, obviously, compared to the Fosi, the Sony is massive. That's definitely something to consider if you like to move your system around a lot. The Fosi is pretty much portable, but maybe size isn't all that matters. For example, we already covered that this thing puts out more power than this thing. Here's a chart showing what the BT20A Max is capable of. As you can see, Fosi's amp can easily power almost any pair of speakers out there. Now, even though the Fosi can output more power than the Sony, it's a little limited when it comes to outputs that it can feed that power through. The Sony has two pairs of speaker outputs, A and B, which can be toggled between, or you can play them both at once. Now, you'll get the same signal coming out of each pair, so there's no surround sound or anything like that. In addition to an extra speaker output, the Sony also has this headphone jack. In my experience, I prefer the sound just using my phone, although if you have more power-hungry headphones, this could be appealing to you. On the subject of outputs, however, the Fosi offers something quite compelling over the Sony, a dedicated subwoofer out with a high-pass filter. What this does is allow for your speakers to work without having to deal with low frequencies, by sending those to a subwoofer instead. This means less distortion, more clarity, and tighter feeling bass. You can still run a subwoofer from the Sony, but both your subwoofer and your main speakers will be producing those low frequencies, losing some of the benefits of a subwoofer. And it sort of muddies up the bass in my experience. That's the main reason I would recommend the Fosi over the Sony. Whether you're listening to music or watching movies, a subwoofer is one of the most significant upgrades that you can make to your stereo system. And with the Fosi, whenever you upgrade to a subwoofer, you can be sure that you're getting the most that it has to offer. Now, let's talk about inputs. The Fosi has two RCA inputs, Bluetooth 6.0, and that's about it. It's easy to toggle between the inputs using either the remote or the button on the front. The Sony, on the other hand, features an aux port, an FM tuner, 4 RCA inputs, and an input for a phono preamp. It also features Bluetooth, although it is 5.0. These inputs are fairly easy to cycle through as well, either using the knob on the front or the remote. Now let's talk about features. Both amps feature tone control, although the Sony allows you to control the balance while the Fosi does not. Both also feature dimmers if you find the LEDs distracting, and both let you control this as well as volume and playback from their respective remotes. The Sony, however, does have more options on its remote. One useful feature that the Sony has over the Fosi is that when you select it in your Bluetooth menu on your phone, it automatically turns on. This is pretty nice, especially if you just don't want to get up from your couch. Now, one cool feature that the Fosi has over the Sony is that when you change the volume on your remote, the volume knob is turned to match the level you changed it to. Now, aesthetics are important to a lot of people when they're building a stereo system. Although both these amps look pretty good in my opinion, they're almost opposites in this category. Obviously, the Sony would look clunky and out of place on a desk, while the Fosi excels there. Likewise, the Fosi might look out of place in the middle of some grand system with massive speakers, although ironically, it would probably power them better than the Sony. Ultimately, this category comes down to where you're going to be listening to your music, and of course, personal preference. With aesthetics out of the way, let's talk about what's many people's most important factor: sound quality. Through my extensive experience living with and testing both of these products, I can confidently say that the Fosi produces a much clearer sound than the Sony. Now, when I first plugged my speakers into the BT20A Max, I felt this. And before I filmed this video, before I even wrote this script, I went back and I plugged them back into the Sony, and sure enough, it was like there was a slight fog covering the music that I was listening to. I went back to the Fosi and it felt clear again. In addition to this observation, it's worth noting that the Fosi can produce a decent bit more power than the Sony, which can certainly make more demanding speakers feel a lot stronger and give them more clarity. Now, which of these is going to be a better fit for you? Both of these retail for about $250, so it really just comes down to what your situation is. For anyone with a subwoofer or who would even consider getting a subwoofer, I'd have to recommend the Fosi. The dedicated subwoofer output and the high-pass filter are just so beneficial to a sub that it makes it a no-brainer in that category. The power output of the Fosi also makes it very attractive for people with more demanding speakers or anyone who just likes to listen to music really loud. For anyone at a desk or with very limited space, the Fosi is a no-brainer once again. It's a fraction of the size of the Sony and it fits in great on any desk. However, if you listen to headphones a lot, you might want to consider the Sony because of that headphone jack on the front. It also has a bit more of a classic, bulky receiver look if that's what you're into. Ultimately, because of its portability, the subwoofer features, and just the sound quality, the Fosi is the winner for me. Drop a comment down below and tell me which amplifier is better for you. This channel is still pretty tiny, so any support really means a lot. Links to both amplifiers can be found in the description. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next time.